On a sunny afternoon on the campus of Yale University, Nolan Carter sat beneath the shades of a centuries-old oak tree with books and notes gathered around him. His blue eyes were fixed on an economic chart, attempting to decipher the complexities of the financial markets. His dedication to his studies was evident. He was the kind of student teachers praised and peers admired. With well-groomed brown hair and a serious demeanor, Nolan had a clear goal in mind: to rise socially and professionally, securing a prosperous future. On the other side of the lawn, Valerie Morgan, her long blonde hair tied in a ponytail, balanced a tray filled with drinks and sandwiches. She worked at the campus cafe, Yale Coffee, a popular meeting spot among the students. Valerie, with her tan skin and sparkling green eyes, possessed a natural beauty that drew gazes wherever she went. However, behind her friendly smile was a young woman who dreamed of more than just serving coffee. She desired a better life away from overdue bills and double shifts at the cafe. One of those days, while serving a cappuccino to Nolan, their gazes met. Impressed by her beauty and charisma, he asked, "Do you study here?" Valerie, with a shy smile, replied, "No, I work here, but I've always wanted to study." Life, however, had other plans for me. Touched by her sincerity, Nolan said, Education isn't confined to classrooms alone. Sometimes life teaches us more than any book can." From that day on, the two began to meet more frequently. Valerie saw in Nolan an opportunity to learn and perhaps change her trajectory, and Nolan, in turn, found in Valerie a pleasant and inspiring companion, reminding him that there was more to life than just numbers and charts. Nolan's graduation was a grand event. The university auditorium was filled with proud family and friends, all elegantly dressed for the occasion. The chairs were covered in red velvet, and the walls were adorned with golden banners. The orchestra played a soft melody, creating an atmosphere of celebration and achievement. Nolan, wearing his navy blue gown with gold accents, walked confidently down to Central, his cap swaying with each step. By his side, Valerie radiated pride, wearing a long champagne silk dress that perfectly complemented her golden skin. After the ceremony, as the two walked through the university gardens, Nolan said, excitement gleaming in his eyes, "I have received an offer from Tech Solutions, one of the country's largest technology companies. They want me to start next week." Valerie, surprised and moved, replied, "Oh, Nolan, that is amazing. I always knew you would go far." The two decided to marry shortly after in an intimate beach ceremony, surrounded by close family and friends. The golden sunset reflected on the ocean, creating the perfect setting for the beginning of their life together. As they planned for the future, Valerie, gazing affectionately at Nolan, said, "I've thought a lot about it, and I think, at least for now, I want to focus on taking care of our home. I want you to have a peaceful place to come back to after a long day at work." Touched by Valerie's decision, Nolan replied, "I support whatever choice you make. I just want you to be happy, and having you by my side every day is more than I could ask for." 5 years had passed since Nolan joined Tech Solutions, and the landscape of his life had changed drastically. The luxurious apartments in the city center, once filled with laughter and passionate conversations, now echoed with deafening silence. The walls adorned with modern artworks were silent witnesses to the growing tensions between Nolan and Valerie. Nolan, now with lines of concern etched on his forehead, often came home after long hours at the office, hoping to find some comfort. However, Valerie, obsessed with parties and extravagant shopping, was rarely at home. When she was, Her eyes were often glued to her smartphone, scrolling through social media or shopping online. "You didn't even ask how my day was," Nolan murmured one night as they dined in silence. Valerie, without lifting her eyes from her phone, distractedly replied, "Oh, sorry, how was it?" Nolan sniffed. "Difficult as usual. I feel like no matter how hard I try, Jeremy never acknowledges my work." Valerie shrugged. "Maybe you are not trying hard enough." In the office, Jeremy, a tall man with gray hair and a condescending smile, often downplayed Nolan's contributions, attributing his successes to other team members or worse, claiming them as his own. What Nolan didn't know was that behind closed doors, Jeremy and Valerie shared more than casual conversations. Over the years, they had grown closer, meeting in secret and exchanging affectionate messages. Nolan's insecurity grew exponentially, both about his marriage and his career. He began to question every exchanged glance between Valerie and Jeremy, every shared laugh, every night Valerie came home late. The confidence and security he once felt were disintegrating, leaving him adrift in a sea of doubts and suspicions. The Tech Solutions office was immersed in an almost tangible silence, broken only by the gentle hum of the coffee machine and the steady rhythm of keys being pressed. The fluorescent lights above cast a pale glow on the cubicles, creating elongated shadows that stretched across the marble floor. Nolan, with his shoulders slightly slouched and an expression laden with concern, walked slowly through the corridors. His footsteps echoed softly, each one resonating with the insecurity he felt. He had heard whispers among colleagues that Valerie had been seen in the office, and it left him uneasy. As he approached the imposing dark wooden door of Jeremy's office, he stopped, hesitating. His heart pounded, and he could feel cold sweat forming on his forehead. Taking a deep breath, he knocked gently. The door opened, revealing Jeremy, a tall man with an imposing posture and piercing eyes. "Oh, Nolan," he said with a condensing tone, "what brings you to my office?" Nolan swallowed hard. "I heard rumors that Valerie was here today. Have you seen her?" Jeremy raised an eyebrow, his gaze assessing Nolan. "Valerie, your wife? Why on earth would she be here?" Trying to maintain his composure, Nolan replied, "I'm not sure, I just thought maybe it was a misunderstanding." Jeremy shrugged. "Well, if you say so. Now, if you will excuse me, I have work to do." Nolan nodded and turned to leave, but what he didn't see was the door of the closet adjacent to Jeremy's office slowly opening. Valerie quietly emerged, her face pale and eyes wide with fear. They had been together all along. As Nolan walked away, the soft sounds of a melancholic melody began to play on the office sound system, accentuating the heavy atmosphere. Nolan's mind was in turmoil, trying to piece together the puzzle his life had become. The afternoon was fading, and the elongated shadows cast by the city's skyscrapers could be seen through the expansive windows of the Tech Solutions office. Nolan, with a leather folder under his arm, gently knocked on the partially opened door of Jeremy's office. The aroma of freshly brewed coffee and the soft sounds of jazz filled the luxurious ambience of the room. "Jeremy," Nolan began hesitantly, "I finalized the new product. I think we have something truly groundbreaking here." He extended the folder, revealing detailed graphs, marked analyses, and prototypes of the product. Jeremy, seated behind his mahogany desk, briefly glanced at the documents, then at Nolan, and said with a dismissive tone, "Great, Nolan. Leave it with me. I will present it to the CEO." Nolan, somewhat stunned by the abrupt response, replied, "But Jeremy, I've dedicated months to this project. I know every detail, every potential. Wouldn't it be better if I presented it to the CEO?" Jeremy stood up, his imposing posture making Nolan feel even smaller. Nolan, understand one thing, he said, pointing to himself. I'm the boss here. It is my responsibility to present important projects to the CEO. She expects to hear from me, not from a subordinate. Nolan swallowed hard, feeling diminished. Jeremy, I just thought that since the idea and development are mine, I should be the one responsible for presenting it. Jeremy laughed a short and humorless laugh. Nolan, you are talented, I won't deny that, but there's a hierarchy here, and I'm at the top, so leave it to me. Nolan nodded slowly, disappointment evident in his eyes. All right, Jeremy, I hope the project is well received. Jeremy simply waved, turning his attention back to the papers on his desk, while Nolan left the room, struggling with the sense of injustice that consumed him. Night had fallen when Nolan left the Tech Solutions building. The city lights reflected in puddles formed by the recent rain, and the cold winds cut through his face, but none of this compared to the weight in his chest. Each step toward his home felt heavier than the last, and the rumors about Valerie and Jeremy echoed in his mind. Upon arriving home, the aroma of a freshly prepared dinner filled the air. The table was set with lit candles, perhaps Valerie's attempt to create a cozy atmosphere. However, the silence between them was deafening. Nolan, with a somber look, began, Valerie, I heard rumors at the office today about you and Jeremy. Valerie, clearly surprised, responded defensively. What? Why would I be in your office? Nolan hesitated, searching for the right words. There are rumors that you and Jeremy, that you are having an affair. Valerie laughed a nervous and incredulous laugh. You really believe that? That I cheated on you with your boss? That's absurd. Nolan, with teary eyes, looked down, avoiding Valerie's piercing gaze. I just needed to hear it from you. I needed to know the truth. Valerie let out a deep sigh, her expression shifting from defensive to frustrated. You know, Nolan, that is your problem. You always let yourself be walked over, whether by Jeremy or anyone else. I need someone who stands up, who fights for what they believe, not someone who doubts me based on gossip. Valerie's words hit Nolan like a dagger. He felt his heart tighten, realizing that his insecurity was affecting not only his career, but also his marriage. Before Nolan could respond, Valerie grabbed her purse and stood up. I need some time, Nolan. I am going to my mother's place. I need to think. Nolan, stunned, could only watch as Valerie left, leaving him alone with his thoughts and an untouched dinner. The nights, which began with promise, ended in dissolution. The morning sun cast golden rays through the panoramic windows of the Tech Solutions conference room. Executives and high-level managers, all in impassible suits, filled the chairs, eagerly awaiting the presentation. Jeremy, with his confident posture, stood at the podium, ready to present. As the presentation began, impressive charts and an optimistic projections lit up the screen. The room was filled with murmurs of admiration and nods of approval. Jeremy, with his polished rhetoric and undeniable charisma, described how the new project would turn $100 million into billion within a year. At the end of the presentation, thunderous applause filled the room. Jeremy, with a Trumpian smile, absorbed every compliment, every pat on the back, as if he were the architect of that brilliant project. Gloria, the CEO of the company, an elegant woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, approached Jeremy. That was amazing, Jeremy, she said, clearly impressed. Your plan is ambitious, but if anyone can make it happen, it is you. Jeremy nodded slightly, thanking her. Thank you, Gloria. It is all about vision and execution. On the other side of the room, Nolan watched the scene unfold, a knot of bitterness forming in his stomach. He knew every detail of that presentation, every graph, every projection. After all, he had spent sleepless nights working on that project, and now Jeremy was receiving all the praise while Nolan remains in the shadows, his hard work and dedication unrecognized. Nolan tightened the folder containing the original project in his hands, recalling all the hours he had devoted to it. He knew he deserved the recognition, but for now, all he could do was watch as someone else reaped the rewards of his hard work. The atmosphere in the Tech Solutions office was charged with tension. Nolan, with the original project firmly clutched in his hands, walked purposefully to the glass-walled office where Jeremy was talking to Gloria. He took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of nervousness and determination, and entered without knocking. Gloria, surprised by the abrupt interruption, looked at Nolan with a questioning expression. Jeremy, on the other hand, paled upon seeing the document in Nolan's hands. "What does this mean, Nolan?" Gloria asked, her voice firm. Nolan, looking directly into Jeremy's eyes, replied, "This, Gloria, is the original project that I created. The same project that Jeremy just presented as if it were his." Jeremy swallowed hard, clearly uncomfortable. "Nolan, I don't know what you're talking about. We all work together here." Nolan, however, was ready for the confrontation. He opened the project, showing Gloria the handwritten notes, the sketches, and the calculations. "I put months into this, Gloria. Sleepless nights, weekends, and Jeremy wants to take all the credit." Gloria, clearly shocked, looked at Jeremy, expecting an explanation. Jeremy, embarrassed and clearly caught off guard, tried to defend himself. "Nolan, I'm the head of the department. Anything done under my supervision is, in a way, my work too." Nolan, however, was not willing to back down. "This isn't leadership, Jeremy. This is theft, and I won't allow you or anyone else to profit from my work anymore." The room fell silent, tension palpable. Gloria, with a serious expression, looked at the two men in front of her, pondering her next words. The room was enveloped in a tense silence, with Nolan anxiously awaiting a response from Gloria. He hoped, perhaps naively, that she would take his side, recognizing the effort and dedication he had put into the project. Gloria, after a long and uncomfortable silence, finally spoke, her voice calm and controlled. "Nolan, I understand your frustration and acknowledge the hard work you have put into this project. However, there is something you need to understand." Nolan furrowed his brow, confused. "What would that be, Gloria?" She sipped, carefully choosing her words. "Jeremy has something that you don't, Nolan. He has charisma. He has the ability to sell an idea, to make people believe in him. And in the business world, that's as valuable as the ability to create something." Nolan felt like he had been punched in the guts. "So you're saying it's okay for him to take credit for my work just because he is more charismatic?" Gloria nodded slowly. "In many ways, yes. Jeremy is the face of the department. He is who investors want to see, who they trust. Your hard work, Nolan, is what allows him to do what he does best." Nolan was stunned. He never expected this response from Gloria, someone he had always respected and admired. He felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and disillusionment, realizing that in the corporate world, merit and hard work aren't always rewarded the way they should be. The Tech Solutions cafeteria was bustling with groups of co-workers engaged in lively conversations and occasional laughter, filling the air. However, at a table in the corner, Nolan sat alone, absent-mindedly poking at his food. His face reflected the storm of emotions he felt inside. Upon entering the cafeteria, Alex, a co-worker and a close friend of Nolan's, immediately noticed Nolan's somber expression. He approached, pulled out a chair, and sat down across from Nolan. "Hey buddy," Alex said, his voice filled with concern. "You look like you have lost your best friends. What happened?" Nolan looked at Alex, his eyes tired, and said, "Alex, you wouldn't believe what happened today. I confronted Jeremy in the front of Galleria about the project, and she basically said it is okay for him to take credit for my work because he is more charismatic." Alex frowned, clearly shocked. "That's ridiculous. You are one of the most talented guys I know. You don't deserve to be treated like this." Nolan sipped, looking at his untouched food. I just wanted to be recognized for my work, Alex. Is that too much to ask?" Alex placed his hands on Nolan's shoulder, looking him in the eyes. "Nolan, you are amazing. You are smart, dedicated, and full of qualities. Don't let anyone, not even the CEO, makes you doubt your worth. You don't have to humiliate yourself or accept being treated this way." Alex's words seemed to ignite a fire within Nolan. He lifted his head, his posture shifting from defeated to determined. "You are right, Alex. I deserve more than this. It is time for me to take action." Alex smiled, giving Nolan a pat on the back. "That is the spirit, buddy. Show them what you are made of." Nolan, with his heart pounding in his chest, pushed open the double doors of the conference room where Gloria, the CEO, was engaged in a deep discussion with Jeremy. Both looked surprised at him, but Nolan, with renewed determination, didn't hesitate. "Gloria, I'm resigning," he began, his voice firm. "I am talented, and I know there are companies out there that would recognize my value and be willing to pay much more for my work." Jeremy let out a sarcastic laugh. "Dramatic as always, Nolan." But Nolan wasn't there for games. His eyes settled on a shiny object in the corner of the room. It was a ring, not just any ring, but one he would recognize anywhere. It was the custom ring he had given Valerie on their wedding anniversary, engraved with her name. He picked up the ring, holding it up high for both to see. "Do you recognize this, Jeremy?" Nolan asked, his voice trembling with anger. "It is the ring I gave my wife. What is it doing here, Gloria?" Gloria, now furious, stood up. "Nolan, I've always believed in you. I was waiting for you to show this determination and courage." Jeremy, with anger and shame, tried to protest, but Gloria cut him off. "We don't need people having romantic encounters during work hours, and we certainly don't need leaders who don't value the work of their subordinates." Nolan, still holding the ring, looked at Jeremy with a mix of anger and sadness. "You may have taken something from me, Jeremy, but you will never take away my talent and determination." The golden lights of evening streamed through the windows of Nolan's house, reflecting the new chapter of his life. He sat in his favorite armchair, a book in hands, when he heard knocks on the door. Upon opening it, he found Valerie, his wife, with teary eyes and regretful expression. "Nolan," she began, her voice trembling, "I was wrong. I have always believed in you, always known your potential. Can we try again?" Nolan, looking deep into her eyes, said nothing for a moment. Then he turned and picked up an elegantly wrapped gift box from the coffee table. "I have something for you," he said, extending the box to her. Valerie, surprised, took the box, feeling its weight. She expected to find something valuable, perhaps a piece of jewelry given Nolan's recent promotion. With an eager smile, she opened the box, but her smile quickly turned to shock. Inside was a thick envelope. She opened it and pulled out the papers. They were divorce documents, already signed by Nolan. Nolan, with a calm he had never shown before, said, "Valerie, you may have believed in me, but you didn't believe in us. and I can't live with someone who betrays my trust the way you did." Valerie, stunned, looked at Nolan, searching for words, but Nolan continued. "You will never enjoy the life I've built. I deserve someone who values me for who I am, not what I have." And with that, Nolan closed the door, leaving Valerie outside with the divorce papers in hand, as he finally began to live life on his own terms. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.